The wasteland wasn't born just out of the collective trauma of the First World War, it also came out of T.S. Eliot's own personal crisis. The early 20th century was a period of rapid change, cities were expanding, consumer culture was booming, and life was moving at a dizzying pace. Doctors of the time even diagnosed a condition called neurasthenia for the exhaustion and anxiety that seemed to come with this fast modern life. Eliot himself was diagnosed with it after a breakdown in 1921 and was sent to Margate and later to a sanatorium in Lausanne to recover. This nervous collapse happened against the backdrop of a failing marriage, a job he found dull at Lloyd's Bank, and the death of his father, who, to make it worse, died believing that Eliot had not lived up to his potential. All of this seeps into the symbolic building of the wasteland. Its voices often feel paralyzed, trapped in cycles of boredom, spiritual dryness, and inertia. Knowing this personal context makes the poem even more like an intimate record of breakdown and survival, and not just a grand modernist statement. Now we move on to the analysis of the recurring motive of the helpless prophets. Tiresias, as Eliot mentions in his notes, is the most important personage in the wasteland, in whom both the man and the woman become one. He therefore is Eliot's everyman. However, he also keeps up the character of the helpless prophet recurrent, starting from the epigraph till the very last part of the poem. So in the epigraph, we have Sibyl of Cumae, who is one of the many prophets in Greek mythology. Sibyl is trapped in a jar, her body is decaying as she continues to remain alive for eternity. Two things to be noted here. Firstly, Sibyl is caught in the twilight zone of not quite alive, not quite dead. Secondly, she is definitely not thriving with her prophetic powers. So we have two more characters akin to her. In the Burial of the Dead section, Eliot alludes to Huxley's Chrome Yellow, especially to the character of the con artist Sesostris, via the character of Madame Sesostris. Huxley's Sesostris is actually a man disguised so in order to seduce women. So this image of Madame Sesostris, who performs both a man and a woman, is very similar to the in-between zone that we saw in the Cumaean Sibyl's case. Secondly, Sesostris is a very famous clairvoyant and is famous as the wisest woman in Europe, but she's down with cold. And this could be a stretch. After all, cold can be annoying sometimes, but this cold could also be the reference to the wearing away of the prophet persona, the helpless prophet. Then finally, we have Tiresias, the blind prophet with wrinkled female breasts, who is doomed to see the scenes that play out for him. In him, Sibyl and Madame Sesostris bloom to a conclusion. They set the stage for the role of Tiresias to assert his importance. And one could notice the authority with which she announces, I, Tiresias, old man with wrinkled dugs, perceived the scene and foretold the rest. And lastly, my 2 cents on the journey of water throughout the poem. So Eliot is not only presenting a new symbol system of resolution and decay, but he's also undoing established symbol systems of hope, renewal, and calm. For example, the paradoxical image of making spring sound alarming and winter comforting. Also worthy to be noted is the image of water. So in the very first part, Sesostris warns the speaker to fear death by water, and this actually occurs in the fourth part when Plebus the Venetian dies by drowning. In the third part, the nymphs abandoned the river Thames, and now all there were cigarette ends, cardboard boxes, sandwich papers, just rubbish. The river bank is also corroded by rats, an image of plague, as the speaker pleads Thames to run softly till he ends his song. By the final part, water becomes a fantasy. He writes, quote unquote, if there was water and no rock, if there were rock and also water and spring, if there were the sound of water only, until finally the thunder roars and down it comes, water. Through the journey of water, which like its flowy nature does not stay consistent throughout the text, one can assume that Eliot has perhaps hinted at a potentially healing future. That, of course, by following the thunder's imperatives in the last part of the poem. I am Garima, and this was my analysis of the poem The Wasteland by T.S. Eliot.